What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, coming at you to be able to answer a valued viewer's question. Now, you guys know me, I appreciate the love, so before we get started today, do me a favor and just smash that like button. Doesn't cost you anything, and it helps out the YouTube algorithm a ton. The other thing that really helps out the algorithm is if you comment below, especially if you enjoyed the video or if you have questions of your own that you would like me to address in future episodes. Go ahead and let me know, and of course, I'll try to help you out if I can. So, let's jump right into it. Today's question comes from Toby. So Toby, it's great to hear from you. Thank you so much for your message. And Toby's comment was on a video that I posted last week, which was called, "Should you publish journal articles as a solo author?" The answer is, it depends. If you're interested, check that video out. But let's go ahead and get to Toby's question for today. Okay? So here's the question. Toby says, "Your videos are always useful. Thanks so much for creating such a useful and great resource." Thank you so much for watching, Toby. I have a quick question if you have time. Is there any advantage in publishing in different journals each time? In other words, let's say that you got 3 articles that you want to publish, and you got the same journal. Let's say Law and Human Behavior journal in my field, right? All 3 of the articles that you've written, all 3 of them you publish in Law and Human Behavior. Is that a bad thing? That's what Toby's asking, okay? Toby says, "So far my 3 papers have all been sent to the same journal." So it sounds, Toby, like they haven't been published there yet. They've just been submitted, right? And I feel that it may look weird if everything I write is published in the same place. Toby, that's a great question, and it's one that I'm surprised nobody's kind of asked earlier, so I really appreciate you bringing this up. Now, it is certainly something where, I have publications in terms of articles that I've put into the exact same journal. And so what I've tried to do is to kind of narrow this down, Toby, for you and for everybody else on the channel, in terms of 3 questions to ask yourself to figure out, is this a good decision or not, okay? So, the first question to ask yourself is, what's the impact factor of the journal? If you end up finding that the impact factor of the journal is exceptionally high for your field, for example, in psychology, one of the highest impact factor journals we have is called Psychological Bulletin. If you have 3 publications and you're a psychology professor or an aspiring psychologist, especially in academia, and you have 3 publications, Toby, in Psychological Bulletin, dude, you're a champ. You've climbed like the Mount Everest of Psych. 3? That would be incredible, especially early career. I mean, that is like unheard of. That's pretty amazing, especially if you're a first author on all 3. Are you kidding me? That'd be amazing. But if it's something where, especially if it's a no impact factor journal, you need to be really careful. Okay, I wouldn't do that. If it's something where in the ranking of impact factors for your field, the impact factor I would say is in like the lowest 25%. It's like the lowest quartile, then it's something where my recommendation is that not all of your pieces should be submitted to the same place. In fact, it's recommended that you shoot about 20% higher, that's the magic number, than whatever impact factor you think your piece should actually be published in. So for example, if you think that the piece should go in a journal where the impact factor is 1.0, you may say, you know what, I'm going to seek out a journal that is 1.2 right now, okay? And this is across fields, so it's going to differ scholar to scholar and field to field, but that's what the data says, and you guys know me, Toby, right? I'm all about the data. It's the most important thing to me, as opposed to just speaking from anecdotal experience. What does the field say? So that's the first thing. So it depends what the impact factor is of the journal that you've submitted all 3 of these pieces to. If it's a respectable impact factor, especially if it's something that's really high and you've submitted all 3, keep in mind that the higher the impact factor, the more likely that journal is to have a lot of submissions. The more submissions, the higher the rejection rate. In other words, the likelihood that all 3 pieces which have been submitted are going to get published in the same journal are relatively low, actually, right? Has nothing to do with you per se, just has to do with the likelihood of the thing, right? Especially if all 3 are under concurrent consideration now, and if all 3 of them also you have recommended the same preferred reviewers, or if they're all on sufficiently the same topic where the same editorial board members would be the ones most likely reviewing the manuscript, then I would say that the likelihood is even lower that all 3 would get published in the same journal, especially if all 3 are submitted at the same time or around the same time. The likelihood that there would be an issue of the journal that has 3 Toby articles It's very unlikely. Again, especially if it was something where you were first author on all three. Again, has it ever happened? I'm sure somewhere in the history of academia it's happened. Is it likely? Exceptionally unlikely in this situation. Okay, that's number one. Second thing, Toby, I would say is that it depends whether you want to get onto the journal's editorial review board or not. Maybe it's something where you're an ad hoc reviewer for the journal right now, meaning that and I've got other videos on the on the channel about how to become an ad hoc reviewer for your favorite journal. If you want to become a peer reviewer for one of your favorite journals, please watch those videos. I got a few really good ones. They're from back when I had the really big bushy beard, if you guys remember that. I thought that beard looked great. Like, honestly, looking back or whatever, At the time, though, it's freaking great, Toby. Okay, so here's the thing. In one of those videos, I talk about how to become an ad hoc reviewer. Maybe you're already doing some ad hoc reviews for the journal, but maybe time has passed and you say, I want to become an official member of the editorial review board. To be doing that, as you'll learn like if you watch Publication Academy modules, again, watch Publication Academy modules, please. It's www.publicationacademy.com. If you're a current student, I'll give you at least a 50% discount. Just contact me via the site. But here's the deal, right? When it comes to this kind of thing, what you need to take into consideration in terms of being a peer reviewer, getting onto an editorial review board, you need to be peer reviewing consistently at least 5 manuscripts a year, okay? Now, if you've done that and you want to get onto the editorial review board, it will make it a more alluring application if you already have recent pieces published in that target journal that you want to get on the editorial review board of. So from that perspective, publishing multiple things to the same outlet would actually be in your best interest. Okay. Third thing, Toby, that I would say, third and last, is it depends on whether or not you're applying for an academic job or not. I would love to say that implicit bias plays no role here, but you know as well as I do that 99.999996% of all information is processed subcortically, right? So, by the limbic cortex or below in terms of the brain. And what that means is that just because we don't want to be biased doesn't mean that we're not inherently biased about things. Okay, Toby? So here's the thing, is that if you're applying for a job, if you're applying for an academic job, one of the things that people are looking for is a sense that you really have a mastery of scholarship, or at least an elementary mastering of scholarship. And so one of the ways to be able to show that is to be able to show that you can get published in multiple journals. Why? Because there are multiple instructions for authors. There are different editorial review boards, different editors-in-chief, different associate editors. So it's not like you've got one editor-in-chief who loves you, an associate editor who loves you, and the same set of peer reviewers from the same journal who love you. No, you, Toby, have mastered a number of different journals. Maybe one of them is a higher impact factor. Maybe one is a lower impact factor. One is in the middle. Fair enough, right? But that's the idea, is that if it is something where you're applying for a job, especially if that journal is not in that kind of top quartile, right? Like top 25% of impact factor journals in your field, it's just something to take into consideration that maybe you want to kind of spread around the love just a little bit, okay? So, Toby, thank you so much for your question, mate. Guys, like I say, always, it's a pleasure to work with you one-on-one. So if you ever want to book a one-on-one session with me, you can go ahead and take a look at the website below for my current rates. It would be a pleasure, as it always is, to talk to you. I've actually just recently opened up some new dates and some new times for you, so you can go ahead and check that out whenever you're ready. But appreciate you guys so much. Have a great night. Don't forget to get out there, take chances, and be your best self. Peace.